Okay, thank you so much. Good morning to you, Dan. My name is Abdul Hamid from Kenyan Youth Biodiversity Network. And I'm so privileged to have you on this interview, a short interview on COP30 Virtual Ocean Pavilion. Just to give you a brief history or introduction into today's interview. So just a bit of background. Virtual Ocean Pavilion is a free platform that provides attendees with the opportunity to know what to expect or what's going on in the in the climate conference. And this year, COP30 will happen in Brazil, Belém. And so the virtual ocean pavilion, its aim is to raise the profile of ocean in the climate space and also within all life on planet. And so we are having this because some of the attendees may not be able to be at the COP30, but interestingly, they may want to see how the ocean and climate nexus fall together, how they support each other in solving some of the planetary actions, but at the center of it, trying to profile or raise the profile of the ocean in all these discussions. And so this year's virtual ocean pavilion will focus on a number of things. Number one, it will focus on the collaborative actions within the Rio conventions. And also it will look at the national and regional actions on agreement of marine biodiversity for areas beyond national jurisdictions, and to promote that nexus between climate, ocean, and biodiversity. And lastly, it also will also focus on the outcomes of the United Nations Ocean Conference that happened. So that is brief about what virtual ocean pavilion aims to achieve, and allow that our attendees to be in picture of how exactly ocean can play a key role in climate space. So I'll give you a minute to introduce yourself, then we can start off our questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abdul. It's a pleasure to be given a chance to talk to you about this upcoming COP30. But before I start, my name is Dan Ashitiva. I work for the National Environment Management Authority as an ecosystems management specialist, currently heading the marine division. Yeah, I have about 15 years of experience in this sector, where I've been able to strategically advise my employer, which I'll call in brief NEMA, in development of frameworks to manage the aquatic ecosystems. This includes the Integrated Coastal Zone Management Action Plan and policy for that matter, state of the coast report, action plans for marine litter management in the coastal area, and of course, site-specific integrated management plans, among other things that generally NEMA does, bearing in mind that NEMA is a government organization based in Kenya. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Happy to know that you have that rich profile and your contribution to NEMA in Kenya in this policy negotiations in the country, and biodiversity now ocean. So just to start us off, would you, just for the sake of the youth who will be at the COP and those who may not be able to be at the COP physically, would you please tell us where parties currently stand with negotiations and some major items relating to the ocean that party negotiators are deciding on?
Currently, of course, we all know that this is a follow-up of COP29, and there have been many other discussions regarding climate change and the nexus between ocean and climate change. So various parties, of course, in this kind of negotiation, they all have a position. But one of the positions that is being really driven is to embed ocean and blue carbon ecosystems into climate change mitigation and regulation. Of course, bearing in mind that these ecosystems also have a capacity to address a lot of these challenges that climate change is posing, including the recent hurricanes and flooding and all that. So the need to embed this is where most of the governments are standing, given that it is also a new frontier that much of its capacity is not yet been fully exploited. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much. So what are your expectations coming to COP30? And what would you consider a success for the ocean among the COP30 outcomes?
Yeah, thank you, Abdul. Of course, COP is about negotiations, give and take, and all that. At the end of the day, it's for the common good of the humanity. But of course, I expect that there will be the ocean climate change nexus will be embedded in, be recognized and embedded in this discussion at a global level, bearing in mind that carbon ocean has a capacity to sequester a lot of carbon from the air. And of course, it's resilient. It also acts as a buffer for so many other things. So for me, a success will be clear commitments. What are the clear commitments that we want to take in financing and implementing the measurable targets that we want to put in place, bearing in mind that we now these are two ecosystems that are being, of course, one of the best, most where do I put it? Is one of the ecosystems that can help us to understand, to address the challenges. So implementation will be the key, other than the negotiation and the targets being put in place. So they need to finance these mechanisms to implement the measure that will be proposed or agreed on at the COP will be one of a success story for me.
Great to hear that. And on to our next question. What collaboration is needed and with or among whom in order to make this happen? And just a follow-up, what would be the best alternative to your desired outcome for the ocean?
Yeah, in terms of collaboration, Ban Abdul, I think we have to have an integrated approach to all this matter, whereby we can bring all stakeholders together, bearing in mind that different stakeholders play a different role in climate change and in ocean management and all that. But there's need for strong collaboration between the UN agencies, especially the likes of United Nations Environmental Program, UNEP, the UN FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization, and of course, IOC, UNESCO. They also need to bring in the regional bodies now to chart the specific issue that face the region. In our part of the country, at least we are in the Nairobi Convention, which covers about 10 countries. So there's need also to bring these regional bodies and conventions in place. Nairobi Convention, the WIOMSA, Western Indian Ocean, Science and Marine Association for the research aspect, and all the academia. And of course, there should also be full commitment not to be achieved by putting in place a clear roadmap and working group within the UNFCCC to promote the issues of ocean, its capacity to sequester carbon and control climate change? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think this question, it should slightly try to address the second question, but if there's something you can add on to it, I think I'll be glad to ask that question. So the question is, what can be done within the UNFCCC work streams to promote ocean climate actions, as well as support the capacity building needs that will enable countries to incorporate ocean-based solutions?
Yeah, Abdul, what about an ocean climate workstream that integrates ocean issues into global tracks so that adaptation is easily communicated, the impacts are easily communicated. You can also support capacity building through technology transfer. One of the things that is making this nexus not work so well is, of course, lack of technology and lack of serious cooperation between the partners. The issue of access to information and data will also will go a long way to help countries make a decision or serious commitments, including ocean components in their climate change. So the need, other than the UNFCCC, the need for now countries to start, because most of these countries are also parties to the UNFCCC. There's no need for them now to capture climate change and ocean nexus into their work plans and strategic plans, so for ease of implementation and all promotion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You mentioned issues to do with technology transfer and capacity building, and on to our next question, also tries to ask or to help us unpack some of the how countries can be supported to increase their understanding of their potential ocean solutions, and what can be done to promote efforts to include ocean solution into their, like you said, national determined contribution and national adaptation plans. Maybe apart from technological transfer capacity building needs, what will be other solutions or alternatives to promote these within the countries to enhance the understanding of ocean-based solutions?
Thank you, Abdul. I think that question is closely related to the other question. Then I just want to reiterate the issue of data access and sharing, because before you make a decision, you have to have data and what's the expertise. How much carbon can be sequestered by a particular blue carbon ecosystem, be it mangroves, be it seagrasses, or salt marshes where they occur. There's need, of course, to have this access to data. This will be happen through research. Before we do that, we also need the level guidelines, or rather not laws and regulations that can help us to quantify mitigation and adaptation benefits of the ocean-based actions. When we are doing restoration of mangroves, how much can we sequester through the area that has been restored? That information as much is still out there. Some of it is not very specific, bearing in mind that different species of mangroves can sequester different amounts of carbon. So maybe through data sharing and technical expert exchange visits and all that, workshop to pilot projects. Remember, in Kenya, we have had one of the projects that is doing carbon credits called Mikoko Pamoja, where it's in Kwale. So that's a project that we can replicate, bearing in mind that we already have people who have benefited from this. Things. But of course, key will be to revise. For example, now the current NDSC, if you look at the current NDSC, in a way we try to influence that it captures the blue carbon ecosystems. The current, I'm talking about Kenyan NDSC 2031-2035. We try to push through so that it captures blue carbon ecosystems as some of the commitments that we are making. It was lacking in the previous NDC. So that's something we can do. But also there are also plans. We have to access our area and know how much seagrass we have in terms of extent, how much mangroves we have. we don't have so much salt marshes, sorry, but of course, there are also other documents that can guide that. We have the National Mangrove Ecosystem Management Plan, which tries to give us the baseline for that. We have coral reef and seagrass restoration strategy, which is also being now revised to also capture the issues of blue carbon, have it clearly spelled out in the national action plans. So yeah, it's about capacity building, data sharing, transfer. Thank you.
You have unpacked a lot on that question. And I want to ask you the next question, okay, because you have tried to link how best we can strengthen or utilize some other existing alternatives beyond the NDCs and NAPs. And so I will jump into nature-based solutions and try to ask how can we incentivize nature-based solutions, recognizing are deeply intertwined.
Yeah, thank you once again. As much as I'd already talked about the apps, maybe if I go to the Kenyan University about the integrated policy and action plan, it is also trying to help us leverage this we currently the country is not being marine spatial plan. It is also intended to now give us clearly where these ecosystems are and all that. So there are new processes like sustainable ocean, which is still a new concept. We also try as a country with that, of course, closely linking that to the global biodiversity framework targets and the sustainable goals. But to your question, I think some of the incentives, they may not be very, very much out there, but we are talking about things like blue carbon credits. Well, how about we give blue carbon credits to people who are doing work in restoring serving these ecosystems? Blue carbon bonds. I know in some countries they are issuing carbon bonds, and most of them are green bonds, but you can also carbon bearing in mind that cost in ecosystem. There's also the issue of ecosystem-based adaptation, whereby now we look at all the ecosystems of all the linkages between land and surface interactions. So we have an ecosystem approach concept that is trying to be achieved through IZM. And of course, where possible, we can also use the ecosystem services. Those who are upstream, because some of the challenges that we have, pollution due to degraded catchment. So those who are upstream, how can we incentivize them so that through payment for ecosystem services, those who are doing the carbon, the restoration and all that, we ensure that they benefit from these mechanisms so that this one. So financial incentives, of course, go on with the policy frameworks that I've already mentioned, some existing, some that need to be done, can encourage the restoration of blue carbon ecosystems, especially mangroves and seagrasses for the case of Kenya, but not leaving behind the coral reefs, bearing in mind the impact of climate change on coral reefs, also can from these incentives, local benefits and basic.
Thank you so much, Dan. And now as a party representative of the party negotiation, or one of the people who negotiate on behalf of our country, how will you ensure your efforts to incorporate the ocean-based solutions will include the indigenous people and local communities, and what is needed to ensure that the benefits from the ocean-based solutions are equitably distributed?
Thank you again, once again, Abdul. You remember up there, I talked about the issue of integrated approach. This cannot be done by leaving out the indigenous people who are majority at the cost. Not well, maybe not majority, but quite a number of groups at the cost as per one purpose. But now to have them included, how to do deliberate outreach programs to them, talk to them deliberately, because some of these people are not able to participate in workshops and conferences and all that. So there's need first to do what we call as per the Kenyan law, and of course it's also international practice, and prior informed consent. What we want to do, have to give them free and prior consent, so that we can also tap in their traditional knowledge. In terms of planning, for example, I talked about the issue of marine spatial planning. Now, how do we do that without involving their traditional knowledge and of the people who have been living there, the indigenous communities and all that? Of course, there's need to also ensure that there's equitable benefit sharing mechanism, such as community stewardship models, whereby whatever we get from these systems can also equally be shared. We have now what we call carbon credits regulation that clearly outlines how much goes to the community and how much goes to a component or person who is investing in that area. Because in most cases, we find that people come to invest in these areas, maybe do restoration and all that, they might be not indigenous people. So to take care of that under the carbon credits regulations of 2024, it's very clear what percentage goes to when you are now selling the credits, the carbon credits, what percentage goes to the community, what percentage goes to the government, what percentage goes to the investor. Yeah, so I think those are the issues that enable us to ensure that there's equitable benefit sharing in what we are doing, and of course, involving communities to act for ownership of these processes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, and happy to note how robust the carbon credit regulation is, and how it outlines the benefit sharing strategy. I was asking just your own opinion. How effective is the ocean and climate change dialogues? How effective is the ocean and climate change dialogues in providing a formal and regular forum for countries and relevant stakeholders? You mentioned some stakeholders up there: academia, the IPLC, the youth, the government, all together, to exchange lessons learned, challenges faced, and opportunities to strengthen ocean-based mitigation and adaptation actions. How can this ocean and climate change dialogues be effective in providing formal and regular forum for exchange of lessons learned, challenges faced?
Thank you, Abdul. There have been several climate ocean dialogue. I wouldn't say that I've participated in all, but the few that I've had a chance to participate in, the dialogues have been a vital platform for visibility and collaboration, helping us to understand this nexus of ocean and climate change. But its impact depends on the formal outcomes leading into the COP decisions. So this dialogue, how do we now take them up to the COP decisions? What we are doing now, discussing with you, and of course, what you will do with others, and so on and so forth. How can we now make sure that these outcomes or discussions or ideas get formally into the COP decision? So it should evolve from a discussion forum to a decision-making process, ensuring ocean issues are systematically using policy outputs. That way it will be impactful rather than just leaving it at this stage. That will be my thinking. Okay.
Thank you so much. Asked 10 questions.
There was a question on BBNJ agreement. Do that.
Okay. So I think we can take two, one on the finance gaps. That is very critical because finance gap has, it is a cost-cutting issue in the three Rio conventions. And it would be very nice to see how also now it affects the ocean space. So allow me to ask a question on finance gaps. So what strategies and mechanisms should be explored to close the ocean finance gap?
That's quite a tough one, but I think I had already alluded to that. The issue of innovative finance instruments such as blue bonds. If we can float bonds, we can have national blue investment frameworks so that people clearly know this. You know, the way we just do the normal bonds, but now we have a bond that's focused on restoration and imitation of degraded ecosystems. How can we promote national investment frameworks? Other than that, at the national level, but we also have the Green Climate Fund. How can we strengthen that and ensure that the ocean players have an access to Green Climate Fund? Because in most previously, the Green Climate Fund focused on terrestrial ecosystems. If we can get that, of course, also the other existing facilities like the Global Environment Facility, or can we have dedicated to coastal resilience at this particular time, a component that is dedicated to coastal resilience? I think those are the things that I can think about. Strengthening access to climate fund and Jeff, Global Environment Facility, and of course now at national level doing investment works. If that's an idea that can apply across nations, that's thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And now on to our last question on the BBNJ, biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction agreement. So the agreement on marine biological diversity of areas beyond national jurisdictions, commonly known as BBNJ agreement, which has reached the threshold, the required threshold of ratification, and will enter into force on 17th January 2026, is considered a climate agreement. Do you support this statement? And maybe why?
Oh yeah. Thank you, Abdul. I think this depends on how you look at it. In a way, it can be considered a climate agreement. But of course, we know that BBNJ is also a new concept. It attained the 60 country threshold, I think, around September, and it's the first COP, as you say, will be in January. But the BBNJ agreement, of course, enhances protection of the high seas biodiversity. So through protection of the high seas biodiversity, which might not be very well known to some of us, is a way of enhancing climate change, bearing in mind the role they play in climate change regulation. Of course, through carbon sequestration and promoting ocean health. It complements the agreement on the Paris Agreement by promoting sustainable management of ocean resources through the introduction of the environmental impact assessment. As much as we want to exploit the ocean, we have also mechanisms in place that help us to do the right thing, which I think the environment EIA, environmental impact assessment regulations or other actions can be climate smart, so that whenever we want to do a project, we make sure that it's also not negatively impacting on that ecosystem to enhance the impact of climate change, but rather to mitigate or rather moderate. By this, I think through the various arms, capacity building, once it's been done clearly as one of the areas that they are looking at, before we do marine genetic resource exploitation. I think this agreement, if well executed, it can also help us to mitigate the impacts of climate change. As we look at BBNJ as a climate agreement, maybe the issue of science-based governance beyond the national decision, that the science will inform our actions without forgetting the need for benefit sharing, especially among the developing countries and the small island states. If that is executed well, using science to inform our actions, ensuring equitable sharing of resources, less controls like EIA, and of course now the promoting capacity building for all the nations so that we are on the same level with the developed countries that are already there. That will help us to address the climate change in those areas beyond national jurisdiction. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Dan, for your time. Maybe if you would have, do you have any question for me?
Well, maybe not really a question, but just to comment you guys for the work you are doing to ensure that this limited knowledge reaches so many people. It's a good move as young conservationist or network. As you do this to make sure that you reach what they have always been calling future generation. Now you are here, you have to take the actions. The climate change is real. Let us keep creating awareness. Let us keep finding forums so we can discuss it so that go to address its impact, minimize the impact to our communities and the livelihoods that communities derive from strong systems.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. And once again, I want to thank you for your time and just enlightening our participants, the young people who will be at the COP and those who will not be able to be at the COP. At least now they have a glimpse into what ocean-based solutions are and how they can be integrated in the Rio conventions to complement each other and also position ocean as an important solution to climate change crisis, to biodiversity loss, and also to try to maybe, let me say, try to rally more support, mobilize resources for the conservation of our biodiversity within the ocean ecosystems in support of the livelihoods and our planet at large. So thank you so much once again, and wish you all the best as we head to COP30 in Berlin. Thank you, and asante sana.
Thank you too. I hope this is not going to be the end. You'll look out for other opportunities. You know very well our 11th Ocean Conference is coming up in June. It will be in Kilifi, Kenya, the first one in Africa. So that will also be a good platform to reach out to many people, because of course I know some of the discussions that will be made at the COP will also trickle out into the Ocean Conference. So look out for June, from around June 7th, the Ocean Conference. Sorry, our 11th Ocean Conference is happening in Kenya, Kilifi maybe, or Mombasa. So you guys can also now physically participate to bring this awareness and also get an impetus and understanding what is happening. Thank you.
Thank you so much for extending an invitation to us, and we will gladly attend to also be able to interact with diverse stakeholders and exchange knowledge. And yeah, thank you so much.